Không, chậm luôn đầu tiên rồi, chậm luôn đầu tiên.
Tao lấy đá.
Vẫn khai vô.
Một số break.
Đây bên nhà nhiều.
Đây. Hay gần như hay. Như vậy nó đi sẽ.
Đâu ai.
Trong mốc cuối.
Đây.
5 kìa.
2 đem.
Tuổi.
I'm champion.
Now the push comes through from the other side and salute.
I will be the champion, not salute.
Take this fight. They're both eyeing the Howl player now.
I'm champion. Let's get it.
The rest of the people.
Oh, bleed. It looks like they're in a little bit of a weird spot here.
Dancing machine. You know? Let's go. Let's go. Okay. Beep.
Oh, salute.
Let's go, Syringe. Destiny.
Let's go.
I'm coming.
Where are you?
I'm coming.
Okay. Nice.
Okay. Okay. Let's go.
Oh no!
Nice, Syringe. Nice.
He's pushing me. Help!
No.
Help!
No.
To your right! Oh my god!
아파.
He's pushing! Go! Nice! The main thing, I think it was to get fast as you can to the spot.
일단 저의 전략은 일단 뽑기에서 시림지와 저와 한 팀이 되는 게 일단 목표였어요. 일단 거기서 끝. 그거 된 순간 끝이에요. 그 이후로는 이제 알아서 다 잡고 다 죽이자. 그 작전이었던 것 같습니다.
I think we all figured out the best strategy. It was to get all the loot you needed and then drive in between the two locations so that you could be, equal distance to both and have good timings for both.
Kế hoạch thì bọn mình không có, thì bọn mình chỉ cứ vô cầm súng rồi bắn thôi.
Yeah, Shrimsy is dead. He surprised me by the bot. Unforgettable.
쉬림지 혼자서도 잘해요.
Obviously, I know how impressive all these guys are, but I was most surprised by Salute's energy. I think that outside of the game, he was very energetic and, very loving and caring, and he was just fun to be around. So it makes doing stuff like this with other players very fun, and having a guy like that is very important.
Còn điều ấn tượng đó là Srimji ạ, vì anh ta vừa mới vô anh chết.
Yulin is pretty good spot for me. I like it pretty much.
방금 같이 이제 했던 컨텐츠 중에 이제 마켓 컨텐츠가 좀 신선했고, 그 다음에 새로 나온 장비들 스턴건이나 긴급 엄폐 신호탄 그런 것들이 좀 재밌는 요소가 될 것 같습니다.
I really enjoy Meiran, the city. I think it's very fun to fight in. I think they did a great job making the city. All the crosses are very short, and you can get onto some small roofs, but there's no like super overpowered angle. I think that it's a very fun city to fight in.
Có lẽ là factory ở giữa map ạ. Mình nghĩ các bạn nên trải nghiệm map về đồ họa thì còn cái bàn cũng như map rộng thì có nhiều khu để nhảy, nên là mình nghĩ các bạn nên thử.
Just take JS9, do your best, and get fun.
원래 좀 새로운 맵이 나오면 저 같은 경우에는 좀 거부감이 드는데, 이번 새로운 맵은 거부감이 저에게 들지 않을 정도로 재밌는 맵이니까 많이 해보시길 추천드립니다.
I would say just enjoy it. I think it's a very good map. I really enjoy all the terrain. I think they did a fantastic job making it.
Mình nghĩ các bạn nên thử cảm giác trải nghiệm một lần ở map này, vì có những tính năng hay và có thêm một cái súng mới đó là CS9.
좀 나온다면 재밌을 것 같긴 해요.
I've never played it for esports yet, so I don't know particularly well, but I think that it's a very good map and I enjoy it, so I think that it's going to be pretty good.
Theo mình nghĩ là có, vì map rộng với cả mình thấy hợp lý.
Let's go!
Your PGS 1 champion will be 17 Gaming!
I am a soul man, I am a soul believer, and congratulations to him for that MVP.
The heartbreak coming in off of this is just so close.
Make some noise for your PUBG Global Series 2 champion, Sonic!
19 kills after 21 minutes of this match. We say goodbye to Bay Trade. Cerberus Esports to win a major title in PUBG. Victory! Welcome to PGS Premium Man.
Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you're watching around the world. Welcome to PGS4 Grand Finals, brought to you by, co-hosted by Crafton and VSPO. We'd also like to thank Ondaseat, the official gaming chair partner, for their amazing support of PGS4, and Zowie's 2546X gaming monitor, the choice of PUBG professionals when seeing every detail matters. And it is going to matter, Matt. My name is Tav, this is Matt, in case you didn't know, in this event, because you have to start strong. If there's a lesson we've learned in the years that we've done this, it's you don't leave it to the last day.
We've got a lot of very momentum-focused teams. I would say TSM being a very notable in that.
Right.
Whenever we see TSM and that squad get an early lead, they just know how to exploit it and push really fast. I'm curious, who's going to get that early lead? Are we going to see Cerberus come out? Hemas just swinging? I don't know, but I'm excited to find out.
We got some big questions. TSM, like you said, so great in group stages. They struggled. They struggled in the finals last time around, but did they fix it? Can they step up and perform here? Does the group stage curse really matter? Another one that I'm curious about is Twisted Minds. They were in that top 3. They looked great in the first event. They have been almost feeling it. How do I say gassed out? They look gassed out right now.
Okay, so amazing group stage for PGS3. PGS4 didn't, or PGS3 Grand Finals didn't go the way that they wanted, and were much more quiet. Still performed well.
Yeah, Twisted Minds.
But Twisted Minds just weren't extremely like all over the place like we're used to seeing them in a group stage.
It is, and you know, when you watch the interviews and the content, they talk about being such a cerebral team. And you know, I think we saw one even earlier today where Batulin said, "You win when you get the circles, and the goal is to reduce that sort of randomness. Make sure that you have the highest chance of pulling those circles." So my question is, maybe in group stages they were just getting unlucky. Let's see if it turns around. Now, a team that got very lucky in the group stages, I think we all can say, the Falcons.
Maybe just a
I've
little
heard
bit.
of catching 9, and I think it was you that said, well, I've never heard of catching 27 in my life.
Yeah, that's the first time I've seen that. But hey, you're supposed to win the games that you're given.
Amen.
And it took them a few times to win that game that they were given, but if anything, they've got some momentum to work with, and let's see how they manage to exploit it.
Other teams that have taken the field, 4 a.m., they missed the finals last time. They're here. Virtus Pro, same story, dominating, looking very good coming into this one in third. Cerberus, always a monstrosity for everyone to deal with. E-Arena, the consistency of that team has been incredible to watch. And Wally Tai, both of those teams, I think, have really, I don't want to say shocked, but put a lot of people on notice that we are more than you think we are.
Yeah, you mentioned E-Arena. They kept drawing my attention. I'm very impressed specifically with their mid-game. We haven't seen them be explosive in an in-game really too much. They did have one high-kill game, but I would like to see them string that together a bit more efficiently in the later stage.
You know, I talked to Tigger earlier, and he said, I was like, what player on your team do you like watching? Who do you sort of like when you're dead, you like to sit back and watch how he plays? He said, I love watching Jacob because that guy can just kill everything around him. And so far, it's proven to be very, very true. Now, but what are we playing for, Matcham?
We got that prize pool that you can see looking at right here. $100,000 for first, $40,000 for second, $20,000 for third, and of course, you know how our point system works. It's going to be 10 points for first, diminishing all the way down to 8th place where you get 1, 9th through 16 get 0 unless you pick up a couple of kills, in which case it's worth 1 point per kill.
If you're going out before that, you better get some kills to go along with it. But we're not just playing for cash. We're playing for PGS points. 300 up for grabs at this event, and that is, again, anything that gets you to PGC and increases your chances of getting to the World that Championship. That is a big deal. In a lot of ways, that's what the players are looking for.
And so much of the year is focused around that. Even right now, you can see a lot of teams are already starting to scope and plan for what's going to be coming down the road with EWC, with PGC down the line. There's so many trickle-over effects that we see go through international to international, leading to the end of the year.
Now, these are participating teams in this event, not necessarily in the grand finals. You'll notice most noticeably on that left side, your GPT global partner teams. Some of them not playing. Sonics will not be taking the field today. They did not make it through. We had some struggles with Daytrade and 17, which I think opens up an interesting point for me. Our defending champions, 2 of the defending PGS champions are not in this final. These are the teams, though, that we think you should keep an eye on. The young guns of Na'Vi, the smash mouth play of Virtus.pro's turnaround, and FaZe under the leadership of James. It seems very, very strong right now.
Yeah, I was actually really, really impressed with VP and specifically some of their later stage firefights that we saw them in. They are a very controlled team, but there's a method to the madness once they start to unlock. It seems like they can be a bit more chaotic, but there's always a flow that they're looking to execute off of. I know there's the jokes about as well with FaZe and James dying early, but we know that that is a ridiculously strong squad.
Here's the thing. James is calling for them right now. I talked to Fex earlier, and I said, what is it like working under James? And he said, you know, it can be tough. James is he's very strong-willed. He tells you what he wants, but he's put together a roster here that reacts well and responds to that. In the same way, Ibiza has put together a strong roster. In fact, Nixie has told me he's had offers. He had to choose which roster to play for. He chose this roster with Ibiza because of the way that he runs the team and the camaraderie within it.
I can easily see that. That's a squad that definitely seems very, very gelled right now. They feel like everybody's kind of on the same page and how they're wanting to play the game. Now that on the, I guess on the other side of that one, whenever we're looking at Na'Vi, this is a bit more of a, I guess, an innovator squad that I'm really enjoying to watch.
I'm going to put myself out there and say this might be the future of PUBG. This reminds me of when Cerberus was on the climb, these sort of young guns. Everybody's like, well, these guys are monsters. Na'Vi brought this roster that was relatively unknown outside of the region, put it together, and has shown up on the back of Hakatori, who is playing out of his freaking mind.
Well,
land jitters, no thank you.
Hakatori and gliders.
True.
I'm enjoying
well,
the
they're
guy
changing the game.
Yeah,
I love that.
I really, really enjoy what they're bringing out. Now, of course, we've got to remind you guys that we've got Fantasy that is going on right now. Make sure you build up your squad. Pretty easy with a $100,000 budget. Well, I would say easy normally. This one's really, really hard.
No. Fantasy's taken on a new word. Basically, winning is now a fantasy for me based on how this has gone so far. But if you think that you are better, if you are like, our producer, Steven, who seems to be one of the top 5 in the world, how that happened, I'll never know. You can have G-Coins. You can win your own share. So make sure you're on there registering. And guess what? We're going to do it all year long. So if you're a little too late for PGS 4, tune in next time because we are going to have even more chances for you to win. But let's take a look at those fantasy stats. Right now, the talent picks, I think a lot of us going to trust that Himas is going the distance, but it seems like some of our cohorts not believe in that.
Yeah, that's very, very interesting. I mean, I'm not going to fault Cam. Ming Ming is ridiculously strong, and there's no world in which you can get Ming Ming and Himas both.
Yeah. Man, there is no world. I wish that I honestly tried to sit there and figure out a world where I could have them and like a sub, but it just did not work out price-wise. Let's see. Overall, the picks, this is what I think is crazy. Hamas at 11.7% tells me not only have we noticed, but everyone has noticed just how powerful this player is.
I mean, yeah, he's the easiest, most logical choice to pick up. If you need to make sure that you're just keeping ground with your opponents, or if they're not going to pick him, he's a great pick to make sure that you're usurping it, picking up those points, because I swear he's like worth 120 points just in and of himself every single time you grab him.
Absolutely. And it's because that cost max is always 35,000. He averages so many more points than his nearest competitors. Another person that's fun to see up here, number 3 is Purdy Curdy. This is a IGL. Can I re-stress that? This is an IGL who is out here leading the numbers in such an amazing way.
It's going to be harder to pick him now that he's got some, I guess, big value back behind him. He was a very good budget pick last time around. A bit more complicated looking through this, but really all of the TSM players had different standout points. It's been a very strong, consistent squad through the group stage. We'll have to see if they can replicate this at the later stages. And yeah, okay, I'll go ahead and take it on the teeth. I'll just oof it a bit.
And yeah, it happens. It happens. Elfish Guy and Cameron taking a lead at 24-23. Saga right behind him at 22. And then a lovely little drop-off to the analyst desk over here. Unfortunate. But I think we've got 3 days. Yeah. The comeback is on the way. Elfish is over there.
And we have him on.
Elfish is pointing at the sky saying, look at me, look at me. I got to remind you, your opponents are only a point and 2 points behind. But enjoy it while you can. I think Saga's got something to say about that. We start the day, Matt, in the Dusty Dunes.
Yeah, I actually bumped into EB while we were walking over, and he was like, I'm so excited. We're starting off on
so
Miramar.
Easy to spot.
Yeah, I mean, very true. And I had to stop for a second. I was like, okay, so I know, like, I talked to a lot of the American players, but is it kind of true with the over in the EU? And it was like, yeah, I just really like starting on Miramar. It feels like it's so much more dynamic. It's the way to start the day because it just sets the pace for the rest of it.
Listen, you brought up EB. Let's talk a little Virtus Pro for a second. They missed PGS 3's Grand Finals. They looked really good, and I caught up with them. I talked with Scoom. Scoom's the coach. Like, a lot of you guys might not realize, Scoom, the legend himself, is here helping with that team. And he said that they used some of EV's connections to link up with Tai Lu to stay with them in their team house during the off week and train in Chinese scrims. And that was a huge difference maker in them getting warmer, really understanding the meta here a little bit better. And I think you can see the difference when you watch them play right now.
Yeah, I mean, they were managing to jump and play a ton of ranked to just make sure that they can just stay consistently, I guess, sated is a good way to say it. So, and it is paying off.
It absolutely is. And there is something to be said for getting into the chance to compete in a different region and try some stuff out. We're going to see what works and what doesn't, because it is time for game number one in just a few moments of PGS 4's Grand Finals. Check this out and don't go anywhere.
Hey, we outside. Don't need your money, just give me respect. Told you before that you know I'm a threat. I ain't letting up, I got my foot on their neck. Yeah, in other words, you know that we about to kill it. I ain't for the talking, I said it, you know I did it. I'm putting on the show, the world is about to feel it. I know they're getting scared when I tell them that. We outside. We out, looking at the view from the top. Get into the band, don't stop. Get into the band, don't stop. Better catch up, cause we outside.
After 3 days of a growing group stage, we now have our 16 finalists. There were plenty of surprises, and I'm sure the final stage will be no different. We have some familiar faces alongside some new ones, and once again, we will see them battle over 3 days to find who will be our PGS 4 champions. There will be no more second chances, and with 300,000 on the line, our teams will need to be ready to fight for every point. Will Cerberus Esports get their back-to-back title? Will Twist might overcome their final stage wounds? Let's find out right now and get this final stage started.
Bọn mình cần cải thiện tâm lý cũng như phong độ ạ. Vì ngày 2 vừa rồi bọn mình đã có một phong độ không được tốt, nên là bọn mình đã hơi thụt lùi.
We had bad communication, bad rotations, and bad team fights. And we've basically gone through some serious changes just to try and make sure that doesn't happen in the grand final.
We're here to redeem ourselves for our performance in PGS 3, and ideally a top 8 would be fantastic, top 5, and then winning, of course.
In that mini 14, so he's going to make good use of them. A lot of headshots coming through there, as well as now the grenades onto Twisted Minds are perfect.
Final stage is a different beast for us, but I think we can be there at the top.
경기가 명성 있는 팀이기도 하고 이제 부담감도 좀 크긴 한데 그래도 잘 적응해 나가고 있고 앞으로 남은 세계대회랑 PGS4 다 열심히 해가지고 좋은 선수 되겠습니다.
I think we are confident right now coming to the finals because it's a completely different game, and with how we played the group stage of the PGS4, I feel like we're pretty confident. We're gonna be pretty confident in the final. I think we can grab our wins and the top placements as well in the leaderboard.
HSM is pushing his way forward, and he's gone a little bit too far as well. Longscrew looks for the double down, he can't quite get it, but there is a cleanup for New Happy in the mix.
我觉得 PGS 对我们最有威胁的队伍应该还是 CES 吧，他们现在 打得很自信吧，然后打得也很勇。
回到队伍的改变是，我感觉大家来到正面打架会更多一点，所以我们正面火力会足一点。
The Chinese scrimmage to grow up the momentum, and that's how we came to the PGS4, like fully prepared.
We definitely see our trophy in our future. For the PGS4 trophy is not unrealistic.
To bounce back after a rough final stage takes a lot of experience and mental skills to reset fully, and we have it. We're ready to fight.
打赢决赛之后，打出我们想要的东西，幸运会眷顾勇敢的人，我们会放肆一搏。
Briefing dengan tim, mempersiapkan untuk grand final. Ya untuk strategi dan yang lainnya, tunggu untuk hari grand final.
And now we know what we have to do to be better. Maybe be different, but like always fine.
只要我们能够减少我们的小失误，我们就准备好向冠军发起挑战。
The West trying to find all of these angles, and there it is. Easy does it. Himas and Taikon.
Bọn mình đã chuẩn bị một tâm lý cũng như phong độ ổn định để chuẩn bị bảo vệ ngôi vương.
The positives were closing out games. When we were in spots we should have won, we did pretty well in closing those out. So we seem to keep on top of that, and hopefully our strengths can shine through. At this stage where legends are born, it's our turn.
Welcome back on into PGS4 after our day off. It's time for the finals stage. We're kicking it off with our final remaining 16 teams. Saga here with me, and we've heard from the analyst there, Saga, of maybe some of the teams to watch. They were touching on FaZe, VP, and Na'Vi. I'll throw you the same question. Who are you keeping your eye on today?
I have to say, from the day one, really, of PGS3, I've been very impressed. By a couple of the APAC teams. This one in particular, I mean, there's no way we can't bring them up as previous champions of PGS3, but even beyond that, Wally Tai, E-Arena, no one expected them to come out and look so consistent. Qualifying to Grand Finals, 2 events back-to-back, is a very, very solid sign for the region as a whole, and Bleed Esports with the final day push as well.
Warms my heart a little bit as someone who's been casting the APAC region, and kind of only the APAC region. For quite a long time, but you know, the question I guess will be whether or not maybe Cerberus can go back to back. I'm not sure about that. I don't know necessarily that that's an easy prediction to make. I think this is an incredibly strong final lobby. There is that big omission of Sonics not being here. That'll be, I think, a talking point throughout the course of today. Probably not going to be much of a factor as we go further forward, as we start to focus on some of the other storylines as those games play out. But, you know, Sonics, they did very well at PGS3. It's a good opportunity now for a bunch of other teams to kind of look and say, well, we can move into that slot that they have evicted.
That's huge. That is a massive point. There's always been conversations, there's always been competition between Sonics, 17 Gamings. Those central loot spots are always under the control of one of those 2 teams. Neither of them are here. They're all up for the taking, and it's been a bit of a fiesta, a bit of a scrap to try and get your hands on those powerful positions, and Cerberus will be taking Picardo for our Miramar starting off the day, and that is not a team that needs any more help.
No, certainly not, but let's find out how we're going to go. It's time for Game 1 of the PGS4 Finals, and indeed we are kicking things off on Miramar. I'm very excited. I always love the start of a new set of games, whatever that may be, whether it is the group stages, whether it is the finals, because it does feel like you really have the world at your feet. You can go anywhere, any team can go well today, and all of a sudden the conversation shifts. You know, right now we're talking about Twisted Minds, we're talking about FaZe, we're talking about Na'Vi, we're talking about Virtus Pro, these teams that have done really well during the group stages. TSM, I think, worth a mention as well after topping the group stage of PGS 4. But who's to say that maybe at the end of today we're not talking about a Bleed who had a 60, 70-point day, or a Legacy, or an E-Arena, or one of these teams that have maybe just snuck their way into the final 16.
Yes.
They could surprise us in the same way that Cerberus did at PGS 3.
Quite easily. The final day of the group stages was a massive performance indicator for some of the teams that maybe they've faltered a little bit throughout the first couple of days, but it's all about mental resilience. On a stage like this, you take that extra day that you have in between the group stage and the grand finals to reset. You come out here looking fresh, looking ready and prepared, and you have to take the fight right from the very get-go.
Yeah, a couple of days ago there was the conversation around obviously Falcons taking Minas and having a hot drop a little bit to secure that position. As you can see here, they are headed in that direction once again. A little bit of a spread out from a few of those members, and we're following Luke 12 out of the plane here from TSM. I mean, I briefly mentioned him in that intro segment, and obviously TSM in general, you know, I definitely have high hopes for this roster. I think they've had quite the renaissance. And analysts are talking quite positively about Purdy and how well he's been doing. You can see that translating into the fantasy numbers, but just in general, like, the team has really found their footing here in PGS 4. I just hope that they didn't peak too soon, you know, because that is definitely something that can happen. You have your couple of really good days during the group stages and come into the finals, and it just doesn't come together. That obviously is, you know, not really how you'd want things to be playing out, but TSM, they're looking solid as a roster. And also, you can listen in to their comms today if you're interested. So
yeah,
head over to those team broadcasts, PUBGesports.com. I think TSM would be a fantastic team to be watching.
Definitely looking solid. Let's find out if they're sounding solid as well. Hearing those team comms has been such a vital source of information when it comes to understanding the decisions that these teams make. I did like that we highlighted Lucarux at the start of the game. Had a potential opportunity to do a little bit of trolling when he stole the vehicle away from Bleed Esports. Had a player tracked inside the shack, but he couldn't commit too long because they are sharing Los Leones with New Happy, although with the phase 1 circle that we have, and make sure you check over on the map feed with that as well. Maybe that's not all too bad of a thing. There is a very solid potential. A zone like this could go for the urban ending, and what a start to the grand finals that would be.
Yeah, Solid Steady wins the race, though. You definitely don't want to be getting involved in those finals too early, right? You don't want to be the first player knocked out here in game number 1. And we would expect, given that it is Miramar, that it might take a little while to get to that point. It tends to be one of the slower starting maps. Sometimes you can go 10-15 minutes without a player getting finished off. And in the case of Twisted Minds, I don't know, where are you sitting with Twisted Minds? Because I thought their group stage performance was decent enough, but that's about as far as you can really place it at the moment.
By their standards, it was abysmal. It was an abysmal group stage. They were.
I'm clearly a nicer guy than you.
Yeah, no, I mean, they would admit it themselves.
Sure.
Coming close to 16th place for a team of that caliber, of that expectation, is far below their expectations, and no doubt they will have taken the time at the start of today and yesterday today, taking that time off, taking that break to look for a reset. Bleed Esports, unfortunately, just can't seem to go anywhere without getting pranked, as Tigger this time makes a very early move. E-Arena potentially not been their MO throughout the entire event so far. They have been a team that favors the late moves, but this time they're looking for the high ground on the southern edge.
Yeah, this Na'Vi roster as well is a pretty interesting one to keep a bit of an eye on. I don't know that they, necessarily have been the most consistent of teams, although they've had some pretty good performances. I've kind of liked the flamboyance with which they've played. They've had some really, really big games, some really, really exciting games. So if everything comes together today for Na'Vi, no doubt in my mind this is going to be a team to watch, and I would echo the analyst's thoughts on that.
For sure. Na'Vi has by far been one of the most interesting and thought-provoking teams that I've just had the chance to sit down and chat with. The way that they approach building this new roster out of relatively unknown, unproven players and getting them prepared over the span of 3 to 4 months to come to an event like this where they don't feel the pressure and just make big performances. Very solid games. And so far, they've done quite well. A top 4 at PGS 3 and looking to replicate that. However, when you give a man like Nixie a P90, the game gets significantly harder for everyone else.
Yeah, VP had a great final day of the group stages. They were the team that got the most points on that day when we were basically talking about Falcons non-stop, and there was definitely a storyline to be said for Falcons. I think they got like 55 points that day, 2 second places and a win.
Yeah.
But kind of flying under the radar a little bit was VP, who got themselves something like 60 plus points on that day and didn't quite get as many accolades because they didn't really need to have such a big day, but they did very well for themselves. So I think VP is kind of like a little bit of a not a dark horse necessarily, that's probably not the right word, but a team to quietly keep an eye on.
Well, this is something that has changed since the group stages, with Cerberus now taking control of Picardo, vacated by the failure of Sonics and 17 to take the position in the grand finals. They're getting up close a little bit too early, and there goes 11% of Fantasy Choices captains. Lou committing to get the spray down to secure the flush, but he's a little bit on edge. He's a little bit aware. He knows there's likely a teammate around here somewhere, but he will secure the flush. Himas, the first player down, and almost gets the shot on towards Tycon as well, but Howl from distance will force him down.
What a storyline. What a storyline to start off the PGS4 final stage. It is Himas. He's the guy. He is him here at PGS4, and he's the first player that's going to get knocked out of the finals stage. I got a feel for Cerberus. Got a feel for all the Cerberus pickers.
Well, I suppose that's what happens. You come in with a brand new strategy, going back to the spot that they loot in the Vietnamese series, but you're up against totally different competition, and Twisted Minds, they know all the strats from Power Grid. They've been there for years, and they will get the first blood of the grand finals.
Yeah, you're definitely not going to be able to get away. Ooh, Tycon's trying to take his teammate out. You're definitely not going to be able to get away with as much when you are playing at a level such as this one in comparison to your domestic competition. Those were some great shots by Fearis, by the way, from Na'Vi, already connecting quite a couple. 87 damage just from those few taps. Nearly gets a quick knock onto one of the legacy players, but as you can see on the scoreboard there, Twisted Minds, the ones to draw first blood, got that point on the board. How much moving and shaking will that scoreboard be doing? And is that a bit of an indication as to maybe how things are going to look? Twisted Minds 1, TSM 2. I wonder, at the end of 3 days of competition, it wouldn't be impossible.
It certainly couldn't. Nothing is impossible at this point apart from Twisted Minds ending with a goose egg. That's the only thing that we can realistically rule out. Anything else could happen. Genji, fortunately, sniffing out a little bit of danger, getting away from Petrichor Road as they set up just to the eastern side of the church by Chumacera. No one really wants to commit too hard towards the center in this zone because, I mean, the threat of a Los Leones ending is still lurking, is still looming. A team like Howl that moves early have gone for a 2-2 split so they can react quickly, but teams who are committed into potential engagements, just dancing around compounds like Rex is currently doing with Ike's left and Summer nearby, they might have to move just a little bit later, might catch them out if the zone shifts unfavorably.
Yeah, the issue with this is if you make one wrong move, if you overstep at the wrong time or peek around the corner, such as this, something like that from Ike's left, he, I would imagine, might have spotted Rex there. Summer's seen Tosi. They're aware that Genji are floating around.
They definitely saw the vehicle disappear, but I don't think they've identified that there is still a target within their compound. But as long as they don't go down onto the low ground, they should be fine for now. FaZe now making their entrance late around the eastern tip of Cantera Ridge, with James way up on the high ground to the northern side of Minas Generalis, just scouting forwards, making sure that no threats are lurking on the underside of the ridge. Falcons taking up the position just over towards the west, but Cantera itself is entirely free. They'll find their way into the Phase 1 circle, but now they're just hoping for a couple of northeastern shifts to give themselves longevity in game number 1.
Yeah, Legacy. Also need to be a little bit careful, kind of close by Na'Vi. We've already done a little bit of damage to them. As we sort of expected, though, a bit of a slower start to Miramar. Yeah, a few exchanges, and obviously Himas going down. That's big news, but by and large, 10 minutes into the game, roughly speaking, 63 players.
The stakes are too high to take
no risks
at this point. Everyone wants to play a little bit favorably, safe, maybe hoping that they can just have a bit of a Falcons-esque day, and this circle just pops directly on top of them a couple of times and gives themselves a nice big boost to their points early on, but we'll have to wait a couple of seconds to find out who's going to benefit.
Here we go. This could be a very important zone shift, and it's going to go just out to the west of Los Leones. Still got Los Leones inside for the moment. Genji will be pretty pleased, so will Pero, as we've been highlighted by the observing team. Now have a look at this rotation as well from FaZe. Hard up toward the north. I just wanted to highlight that because very often we've talked about them being that team that will come in quite late, and they've been doing a pretty good job of it. They were...
Ketpa.
Yeah.
Too close to the sun. They already had a pretty strong 2-2 split, but Howl is a team that really does enjoy playing from the center of any position that they can get their hands on. He was trying to scout forward. They committed only one.
They're still going?
But now they're committing even more to this position. This might just be 3 points for New Happy if they find the wrong angle of approach.
Yeah, it's starting to kick off now. Xiaopian as well has been knocked by Perfectix. Twisted Minds getting into the mix pretty early on. They got that initial kill onto Himas, and now they're looking to cause some problems as well for 4 AM. Nades are going back and forth as well, but it's not really an overcommitment of a fight. But in for the res.
James is actually looking for a third party, trying to get that kill steal from some considerable distance away, still over on the western side of Minas Generalis. They've spotted the knock. The rest of FaZe are making an approach from the northern side of this fight. They have to commit the smoke to grab the revive onto Xiaopian. as the rest of 4AM just scout their way forwards. They know that Twisted Minds is still lurking up on the hilltop, but FaZe making a move in behind.
Well, that res, as far as FaZe is concerned, must have definitely occurred now, so they'll be a little bit more wary on their push forward. We, with the eye in the sky, are very aware of that fact. Gustav spotting out Bobo, a couple of little tags in on that. He's going to allow Fex to keep pushing his way forward. He's also seen Xiaopian. So 4AM's position's being covered off well by FaZe at the moment, and they are sort of between a rock and a hard place with Twisted Minds on the other side.
Yep.
This could get very sticky quite early on for the Chinese squad.
Yeah, but 4AM, they know that Twisted Minds is holding the position to their south. They've committed to the north to grab the revive, and they think, okay, we might just as well take this fight up against FaZe coming in from the north.
Big
Bobo,
push.
he's looking as Corexi and Fex have started to creep their way up just short distance to the east, within grenade range. The first are tossed out.
Oh, it just went a little too short. Bobo and Xiaopian are hitting the legs. They do not want a bar of that. Just going to try and back off a little bit closer to their teammates, further away from Fex and Corexi, who are still looking for angles with the grenades. There's a couple more being thrown back in the other direction now. No one's even getting close just yet. But some shots coming through to... Assist and Fex on 1 HP. He'll duck down to safety.
Oh, Bobo lands another one. Even with the third-party angles from far behind, it's difficult to get the information, but as soon as HSMM can get an accurate marker down, Fex will feel the pressure.
Yeah, 4AM are now the ones on the offensive. They're pushing their way forward. FaZe are wondering if they've bitten off a little bit more than they can chew to start things off. Third party coming through, potentially from Legacy as well. It's really starting to cause problems for FaZe. Corexi down, and Xiaopian, he knows it's an angle, he knows it's an opportunity. James is there to cover off. It seems no one is winning in this north side fight.
No, Twisted Minds are committing in towards pushing and poking and prodding and seeing what kind of third-party opportunities they can find. Lou will land one from range with the Dragunov onto HSM, and that's the anchoring position for both teams gone down. Now.
Bad news indeed. Perhaps shouldn't have got involved. That'll be what both teams are saying. I don't know that 4AM really had the option. FaZe, though, definitely did. Gustav going to eat a nade for 31 HP. God V gets headshot by Lou. And he's finished off. Quick smart by the nade of Gustav. So at the very worst case, FaZe will take some points away from what has become quite a shambolic fight, but I have to imagine that they're not going to be getting away with this one. I don't even know if maybe they'll be the 16th team in this round. They'll be the first one eliminated.
Yeah, FaZe and 4AM both looking like their first game is coming to an abrupt end at the hands of Legacy and Twisted Minds, and even potentially one another. A bit of a fate that was difficult to avoid with 4AM. They were looking for a wide wrap rotation, but they were caught off by Twisted Minds. FaZe tried to jump on the opportunity,
they look good.
But a long-range grenade from Gizera, a perfect bounce, takes down both James and Fex, and surely that rings the bell for FaZe Clan.
Yeah, 2 for the price of 1. Gustav to try to save the day, and maybe even just to try to get one more point out of it. Could he find that flush, that finish onto RBN? I don't think so. Gizera is pushing his way forward, and that should be the end of Gustav when the headshot comes through, and that is that. FaZe indeed are eliminated.
Wow.
As the first team out of the final stage at PGS 4, they will, I think, get a consolation point. RBN will go down. So there's that second for FaZe, but that's really not the first game that you'd be wanting.
We got a demonstration of just how difficult it is to land grenades on terrain like that on the first exchange between 4AM and FaZe, but Gizera cares not. A dunk from range, a double knock, and that signals the push. RBN will lose his life, but that's the IGL. He will be okay with that. For Legacy, in exchange for 4 points early on. Meanwhile, Bleed Esports taking position to the south, trying to creep their way forwards as the zone centers around the field, with Pero looking in the compound to the north.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of what I was saying at the start of this map. Like, you can't necessarily lock anyone in at this point in time, and Legacy would definitely not have been a name on the tongues of many people as far as predictions for, you know, a top placing are concerned. But a good start for them. Could turn into something even more impressive. We'll keep an eye on them as they go through the rest of this game. Rotation out. Gonna go past Na'Vi. This could be dangerous, but the terrain is not actually going to help out all that much. Bayerus gets that knock, and Zera, well, he'll get the information and send it off the cliff. No shots connecting here. This is just started to get a little bit awkward for Legacy on this. Let's rotate.
Na'Vi, they very much favored the edge-heavy play. They've fallen once or twice, lost a couple of players to teams late rotating in out of the blue zone. They're not falling for the same trick again. This zone, though, has gone way further to the northeast than teams were anticipating. Gen G popping the emergency parachute gives them a lifeline, but the options are so severely limited, especially for teams like Bleed and Wally Tai down to the south, as now TSM, coming late out of the blue zone into Picardo, get the drop on 4 AM once again.
Yeah, Luke 12 going to start things off nicely for TSM, and you've got to remember 4 AM, if they've been counting the kill feed, only down to the one member left alive. Surely TSM aware of that this early in the game. Rex is going to drop to Ming from Pero, and Wally Tai are on their way forward as well. This is going to get really messy very quickly for Gen G. They need to hit some shots on this rotation. Wally Tai are in the of things, and Latte has got that knock onto Ada. There's some nades that are going to get tossed back in their direction, but the first one thrown by VLTH, it doesn't matter. Gen G demolished them out of nowhere.
Oh, Wally Tai almost took them back in response. Barpo, single-digit hit points to survive the grenade. Somehow, in all of this, Gen G emergency parachuting onto a shack turns out to not be a terrible play, but Bleed getting full sent into by New Happy.
Yeah, this is crazy. They've got the knocks onto Seymour and Happy. They're ready to go, it seems like. Bleed down on numbers, and New Happy are hunting like sharks in the water for some food, and they are finding it. Longsko wins the duel against Orkarin, and that might just be it for Bleed. Trick's going to toss a grenade out. It might just catch him. It will. But surely it's not enough. Nan still alive and kicking.
It's 1v1. They'll both get the chance to heal, fall back into the compound. But there is third parties creeping their way forwards. Meanwhile, in Picardo, 4 AM and TSM still committing to the fight. Xiaopian is just destroying them, but Alo from beyond the grave will take down the man himself and two of his teammates with a blue zone grenade.
Oh dear.
A sacrifice he had to make to get out of there in one piece, but he won't be able to get very far before Twisted Minds in the arena take him out.
Tell you what, this game started slow, but it has gone absolutely bananas from that point onwards. New Happy and Bleed both managed to get one res, it has to be said. So, chance for another one, potentially. Trick for Orkarin. Longsko's going to push his way forward. He knows surely where the last player is. There's another shot from across the lane. Happy trying to keep it alive. Molotov through, pushes him back, but it won't matter. Longsko wins the duel. And New Happy survive, bleed out of the picture in 13th.
The reposition from Longsker. He has absolutely no right. That Molotov should have forced him off the angle from behind the box. It should have spelled his demise, but the reposition, and he just destroys Happy.
It might still be demise, though, to be fair, for New Happy. LFP from Legacy is pushing his way forward. He's being careful about it. Smokes in. By the looks of things, enough to keep New Happy safe.
For now. But the blue zone will not do them any favors. None has been revived, so at the best it's a points deny. Unless LFP can find him creeping and crawling around in the smoke, he's just one room over. Now exchanging some of those rainbow nades up over the top. One will land, but not close enough.
Surely they've heard each other at this point in time. LFP has been heard by Longsker, there's no doubt about that. Look at that angle, he's too clean at the moment. Single-handedly keeping New Happy at the top of the scoreboard.
This is his position. Do not attempt to take it away from Longsker. He is popping off in this concrete.
Oh, Guizera might have a bit of a look. Knows that his teammate's gone down. He knows that Longsker's kind of stuck. In that position, he's holding the line to try and catch him on the cross, at least get one extra point on the way through. And a 5-point game to start off the day wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. E-Arena, haven't really touched on them too much, but you know, they've been kicking around. We saw Tigger a little bit earlier as well, pushing forward on his own. And now, in a bit of a pitched battle with Twisted Minds, who are being quite mobile. Look at this push from Perfectix. He might actually get caught in the back by Alo, a player that he will not be expecting to still be in the blue.
He knows about him. He definitely heard all the gunfighting between TSM and 4AM down below, but he just simply does not care. He's pushing forwards, the MG3 behind. He turns around and spots Alo regardless. Perfectix. Man, this guy just knows.
Yeah, what a shot as well. Headshot straight away. Alo had no chance. E-Arena have sent it into a dip, about as close to center as you can get. Jacob with a little bit of a mishap there onto Larix. It might not cost E-Arena at this point. That kill feed is really popping off. There's another grenade in there from Akesleft. It'll finish off Tycon. And Cerberus are looking worse for wear, that is for sure. I don't see a world where Solols is going to be able to get out of this one.
Yeah, it hasn't really been the best of times for Cerberus. They lost Imas earlier on, the statistical captain of that team in that regard, but just haven't really been able to get out of this position once the zone has dictated that's the case. And Twisted Minds, they know the competition is weakened. This is the team that they said stole first place from them, and they're here to take it back.
Yeah, Twisted Minds are definitely a team on a mission at the moment. You can see they're playing with confidence and they're looking to push their way forward anytime they sense an opportunity. Thing is, though, have they put themselves into a bit more of an awkward spot now that they're on the other side, on the receiving end of the Pero onslaught? Akesleft already with that initial knock. onto Perfectix, and the push is in. Pero are out for blood. They smell it in the water. Lou pops his head up and gets it chopped off as well. Although there was that trade back, a couple of them from Twisted Minds. Perfectix is low. He's probably going to go down here, but still Twisted Minds could get through the fight.
This angle from Batulins could be absolutely massive. A beautifully placed grenade, and he takes down Summer as well. The revive must be called off. The push pushes through, and Chewy over the top will take down Lou. Perfectis will bleed out, but Twisted Minds up to 9.
Yeah, they're keeping themselves in the mix, and look at the entire side of the map that they've now been able to clear out. Everything else is kicking off on the east, and we haven't really spoken too much about Falcons. I was going to mention them when that circle pushed in. They were in a pretty good spot, so again, another opportunity for a team that's been under the weather a little bit, let's say, to maybe start the day well and continue the roll on with that. Momentum. You do have to get past VP, who's another team that's been absolutely dominating. It's a battle of the smokes at the moment between the two teams, and everyone's just tossing nades back and forth, hoping for the best.
150 kills for Perfectix. But first of all, Mime out into the blue zone. Cannot defeat Quizzy. Nixie with the P90. He picked that up 20 minutes ago. And Jacob just pokes his head over, wants to try and find an opportunity to third party, gets sat back down immediately.
Yeah, I'm not going to want to relive that spray. Could have been a different story if he would have picked up the initial knock onto VP. Could still beat Rallo, though. Also, a bit of a whiff onto Quizzy. There's going to be a couple more shots through, though. Flood trying to save the day. Snakers very, very low on HP is going to have to back off, and that will probably mean Flood will have to as well. Unfortunately for Falcons, they've lost too much positioning. Quizzy, he's going to survive.
He's got to hold it. If he gets off this revive for even a millisecond, his teammate's gone down. He has to, though, because the push from E-Arena, they found their way around the ridge, out of line of sight from Twisted Minds. It forces Nixie over the top, and Snakers will clean him up.
Hang on a minute.
Jacob answers back immediately, and now there's a fight down towards the south as Hakatori goes down to
At this point, who on earth is going to walk away with this game right now? Na'Vi are in a seriously wounded state. Genji 3, Twisted Minds 3. Na'Vi out. Is it E-Arena who are holding on to a fantastic position? They've got a very clear side of the zone and 4 alive.
Teams that like to favor playing the edge did so for about as long as possible, but eventually that just became impossible to do so anymore, and Na'Vi tried to commit the send forwards. E-Arena had already done so successfully, one of very few teams to avoid losing players as they made their push towards the center of this circle. Gen G finally starting to emerge from the shack where their teammates almost met a demise if it were not for 9 hit points earlier on Tosi, being the difference between the trade between themselves and Wally Tai. But it gives them a top 3 and an opportunity. It's a difficult one with Twisted Minds on the high ground up above. They've got a little bowl to work with and not much else, but it's an opportunity all the same.
Look, if nothing else, this has been a phenomenal game from Twisted Minds on those 11 kills already. They've, if not won the game, they've definitely done enough to get you excited about what they're going to continue to do today. They look in fine form.
Here it is. This is when Gen G found themselves in that position. They cleared up the only threat that could potentially have dislodged them. And since then, all they've had to do is wait. Their opportunity will come to them, and maybe it has with this Phase 7 shift, centering down towards their shack on the south. E-Arena getting squeezed tighter and tighter, forced closer and closer together as their ridges are now unsafe in the blue zone.
Yeah, but in saying that, Zizi's already been able to push his way in, so if the rotation has to come through from E-Arena, they're going to be able to work in that direction with some degree of safety. The issue is once the next zone shift comes through, then it's kind of no man's land in between E-Arena and Twisted Minds and Gen G, who are on the other side of what essentially, I guess, has now become a valley.
Yes. The only possible option for E-Arena is if they can make some sort of vehicle send onto the ridge. On the western side of the dirt road, and Batulins is 100% aware of that, so he's setting up in a position. He has tons of utility. Five grenades. If E-Arena do try to make this ridge play work, then Batulins will be there to gatekeep them.
Yeah, just going to keep his head down for the moment, which is a pretty wise choice. Wouldn't want to be getting knocked in a position like that. It would be difficult to res for Twisted Minds. It's not even actually just going to be Batulins now. The entirety of Twisted Minds rotating into that position is going to give E-Arena a bit more of a headache.
Well, the flip side of the coin is Twisted Minds can't push up to E-Arena's ridge while Gen G are alive behind them, so they are really the most squeezed team of this. There's really not much else for them to play whatsoever, so they just have to commit to this position and make it work quickly. But Gen G is well aware. They've heard the vehicles. They now have an opportunity to finally leave that shack and activate, and Twisted Minds must be aware.
Yeah, this could really be the saving grace, actually, for E-Arena, because it was the combined force of Twisted Minds and Gen G that was stopping them from moving. If it's only one, and especially now if Gen G collapse upon Twisted Minds, that's really going to open the door up for E-Arena. Another headshot onto Lu after they've just lost Batulins, and Rex now coming over the top of the ridge. Twisted Minds are done for, surely, at this point, and it's exactly as I've said. E-Arena, now's their time. Now they can move, and Gen G have allowed that. E-Arena and Gen G, the last two alive in Game 1 of the final stage of PGS 4. It's 4-on-3.
As soon as the weakness is shown from Twisted Minds, E-Arena makes the play, hop in the vehicles. Send it forwards, and now they have the center of the zone, the positioning and the numbers in a 4 versus 3 against Gen G.
Yeah, 5 kills for E-Arena so far, 5 for Gen G. Still a bunch of points on offer for both to start things off. It's always fantastic to start off on the right foot. E-Arena, I don't know if you could argue, maybe have a bit more of a difficult time here with that low ground position. Obviously, Zizzy's able to provide Overwatch, but for only so long. How far does his impact stretch? There's a nice knock from Lyrix onto Rex. That's one of the worst players to drop as well for Gen G. He's out on the outskirt, quite close to E-Arena. I'm not sure that there's a res angle in here.
The good thing for E-Arena is they don't need to get over-aggressive to push this, but the good news is for us that it's an APAC team, so of course they're going to do it anyway. Lyrix secures the flush with a grenade over the top. Jacob tries to peek around the side, has to dodge the grenade, but a re-peek anyway, and Tosi gets demolished. Barpo now, 1 versus 4 for Gen G, and there's nothing at all. That he can do. Tigger over the top will secure game number 1 for the team out of Thailand that no one expected to perform this well.
Yeah, certainly not. Maybe some people wouldn't have even expected them to be here in the final 16, but is that a bit of an insight as to where we are going? We had Cerberus winning PGS 3. That's an APAC team. Why not another APAC team to win PGS 4? I wouldn't be mad, personally.
No, we've really given us the APAC bias to start things off, and the perfect chance for us to express that as much as we want, because we can talk all day about Twisted Minds. We've done so for years and years about their performances on the global stage. But E-Arena, new kids on the block, and they've got a point to prove.
Yeah, they certainly do. I mean, a lot more still to look forward to, though. 5 games to go. Don't be going anywhere.
Arena comes out with the first win, and they do it in style. The aggression, the passion, and that's just how you climb the ladder on the back of Jacob.
Let's go, Arena. I was talking about moving into this. I wanted to see them better in the late game, be more aggressive, and they just straight up pushed up. I love pushing into aggressive games at the tail end of a fight. Makes me happy.
So you didn't like the way that they were kind of doing the late games coming into the grand finals?
Correct.
Okay. And I talked to him before this today and asked him sort of how did you prep? How did you get ready? It's been kind of middling for you guys, consistently middling. Yeah. What do you change? And they said we didn't focus on us. We spent all of our prep time focusing on other teams. We know we're good at what we do. We know that we know how to play. We would spend all of our time studying the teams around us so that we could make the right choice at the right time. And I kind of wonder if that didn't just showcase itself in this game.
Think about it. We often hear a lot of like the English-based teams talking about the fact that, well, we just play our own game and those types of stuff. Yeah, they do research in, but that's a very interesting take that's kind of counter to what we often hear.
Absolutely. I love that. I love that they talked about each other and hyped themselves up. We saw a great game, though. E-Arena here at the end, very aggressive from top to bottom. Twisted Minds woke up and showed up as they do get into the late game and got a big stack of kills to go along with it. They're going to be happy with that.
Yeah, and we actually have to admit the fact that there is I guess a resounding silence for a lot of fantasy teams out there, with Hymas being the very first person to get taken out. So it'll be fine.
I'm sure it'll be fine. It's Cerberus. We're not going to say anything negative about that just yet. I will say E-Arena, though, starting here as a team that I think has struggled to get past that 6, 7, 5 position. This is a really good set the pace for them. Welcome back to the desk. My name is Tavis. This is Matchroom. Game number 1 is done, and if we had to say anything about that, that game was full of team kills, which I found fascinating. At least 3 separate teams knocked their own players, and then just bridled aggression. The fact that Genji came over the top and completely wrecks Twisted Minds, and then all of a sudden E-Arena just pouring over the hill. That nade dodge peak, Jacob literally was like, you know what, I'm just going to soak this grenade and hold the repeat.
Well, I mean, you could even say it was happening before that with all of like the smaller skirmishes. We saw New Happy taking on a squad. Right as soon as they finish it out and they're trying to get the reses back in, Legacy comes in, is immediately trying to third party inside of the compound. That's the type of game you want to come out swinging right off the game.
And you got to have, and also for E-Arena, this is a big one for me, is they are playing well. They have been consistent. Jacob, though, has been the standout superstar. And if you want to keep a superstar on your roster, you have to get the entire roster sort of step up and perform. You want to keep this guy here. You want to win so that this is the team going forward for the rest of the year. And they look like that. E-Arena has been absolutely phenomenal. 530 damage. Jacob, incredible.
Yeah, I'm very curious to see what they're going to do with this early lead. This is going to be one of those things that whenever you're a newer team, sometimes you don't necessarily know how you're going to navigate that situation. Yep. Do they continue just a very hard press? Or are they going to potentially fall into the problem of, oh, well, you know, let's be careful or whatever else?
Right.
I'm hoping that they just keep the momentum pushing.
All right, let's take a look at the match leaderboard, which is your overall leaderboard. In case you're just joining us, the first game is done and dusted. EA comes out with 18. Twisted Minds looking really good with that start of 16. Genji pulls 11 out of nowhere. Great fighting. They've been kind of quiet in the group stages, just sort of like quietly plodding along, and here they come out with guns blazing. Na'Vi, the young guns, I tell you what, no matter what they're doing, they're consistently showing up and putting in work.
I mean, Falcons and Legacy as well, coming in very good positioning, already sitting at 6 points apiece, tied up with New Happy. That's a statement in and of itself, and based off of some pretty aggressive play from Legacy and a little bit more of a passive earlier play with Falcons.
I just need to know... At some point, Falcons will stop getting circles.
Bro, I know. How did they get so many circles?
It's impressive. Good for them. Good for them. But at some point, that's going to stop. And are they prepared to capitalize and still make it work? That game, though, those points are going to set them up for a decent run.
Yeah, I mean, we talk about it. We were talking about this in the group stage. You know, 5 points per game.
Right.
Decent. Anything above that means the fact that you're performing above expectations. Whenever you're not walking away with a victory. So all of these squads, whenever we're looking at, already sitting in those top 6 spots. I would say feeling pretty confident coming up from that one. You can see a lot of what they were trying to execute. The only one on that one I would say it's a bit, I was probably sad about their performance, would be New Happy, who got into that entangled firefight in the midsection for quite a while and lost a couple of their players that they were really hoping to win.
Taking a look at some of the players as they get ready for game number 2. Na'Vi here, a group of young guns, relatively unknown, have come out and made a name for themselves, led by Hakatori, and of course Cerberus, a team that we all know at this point, considered probably the best fragger and possibly the best team in the world right now, and they get 0 on game 1.
Is it just a rule we can only have one APAC team just showing dominance at any given time? Cerberus gets 0, so now E-Arena can like usurp them?
No one, I don't think Cerberus gets usurped. Another team that I think has been phenomenal, is going to be phenomenal. Virtus Pro looks so good, the Bears, and you know, and if E-Arena is truly the Rabbits, they're fast-paced, they're aggressive, they're agile. VP has been brutal. Will they take that brutality into map number 2? Let's find out as we head back to the Dusty Dunes with Elfish and Saga.
Time indeed to jump on into map 2 and Miramar again. A couple of the players maybe a little bit late to the stage, running their way on. Wouldn't want to miss it. But I tell you what, Saga, obviously, you know, a bit of a slower start to that game, let's be real. It took about 10-15 minutes for it all to start popping off. But once it kicked off, it felt like it really didn't stop.
Yeah, can't have one without the other. If you have a slow early game, it's going to speed up at some point. And if you have a lot of hot drops towards the early phases, it's probably going to be slower in the mid to late game. That was a prime example of the former of those where we only lost one player, really, until about 13 minutes, where FaZe and 4AM got third-partied by Legacy and Twisted Minds respectively, and from then on out, the action simply did not stop. Game number 2 of the final stage of PGS 4. Hopefully, we see quite similar scenes.
Yeah, it was a fun game. Actually, probably the game that I've enjoyed the most so far out of PGS 4. Quite a nice playing path for pretty much everybody involved. Only team really being maybe Bleed. He's going to have to ult drop.
What's happening in Partona right now? Is this a one-man hard job down here between Happy and Lyrics? Maybe Tigger's down there as well.
There's 2 E-Arena players there.
Well.
Soset has just been killed as well. So...
Oh dear.
That's something. We'll hopefully have to get a replay of that one and see what happened. But already not a great start to the day for Na'Vi, who were so good throughout the group stage. Lyrics looking to chase Happy down. Tigger is there as well. E-Arena will take an easy kill onto one of the Bleed players.
Interesting start. That's 2 of our teams who like to play heavy towards the edge, getting caught up in early engagements. You can see all the action, though, from the 6 teams on your screen right this second. If you head over to PUBGesports.com, you can hear the TSM team reaction to this zone that we've just had. Popping to the northern side of San Martin, up as far as La Cabrera, and TSM right in the middle of it.
Yeah, it's going to be a head-scratcher for a couple of these South teams. Talk about E-Arena and how far down they are. They've definitely got a long way to go. And Na'Vi are having to do it with 3, as we've just seen highlighted there once again. Luke's been a standout player for TSM. Be good to hear from him and see what he has to say about PGS 4.
I think we worked on a few things from PGS 3 that we took away, and we're feeling pretty confident with the changes we made coming into the group stage. And I think if we stick with what we've got, we'll have a good chance to show a strong performance in PGS 4. After looking at the finals of PGS 3, we thought our communication and getting info was a bit lackluster, so we worked on that, and it seemed to go pretty well on the group stage. So we're looking to do the same in the finals. I think in the PGS4 finals, Cerberus is still going to look super strong, especially coming off the back of the PGS3 win. But we know the teams pretty well, and we're confident against this lobby.
Yeah, well, I mean, it wasn't exactly the most outstanding start to the day for TSM.
Yeah.
But plenty more opportunities in the back pocket.
And certainly not for Cerberus either. So there's confirmation that Luke has not read the script for this event.
Yep.
It really was not the best of starts for Cerberus, perhaps due to no fault of their own. That's how it happened. With a mutant? Are you kidding?
It was a headshot. You'll take it.
Wow.
Yeah. Bit of bad luck for Na'Vi.
Huh.
I mean, they're on 7 points. I guess they're
now
ticking along.
May I tell you a story? An illustrious man known as Cammy D.
Yep, heard of him. Seen him
Once
before.
hit a bolt-action headshot on a player in a parachute.
I feel like I've heard this story before.
Yeah, I feel like we're probably going to hear it again, especially in reference to what we just saw. He would say, that was a really cool headshot, with him, but it was with a non-bolt action, and it was far closer. So that one's for you, Cammy. I'll let everyone know. But still, regardless, impressive to do so with a mutant at that range. So said, unfortunate, won't be playing the game, and Unique giving it an attempt himself. This time, Jeems on the bicycle will make it to safety before that M249. I can only presume that being in the hands of Megvalos. He's really enjoyed using the LMGs. But Jeems makes it more or less in one piece, still within grenade range, confirming there is players. Making some presence up towards the top of the hill. FaZe going to take that information, have to formulate some sort of plan.
Jeems in a bit of a spot of bother here, potentially, but don't know how keen FaZe will be to take another early fight, because that really was their undoing in the previous match. They were doing really quite solidly on that northern side, and then they just tried to third party and got stuck in an awkward fight and could never get out of it. So they might be a little bit less likely maybe to make that play again.
Yeah.
See whether or not that adaptation will come through. Falcons didn't have a terrible start to the day. It wasn't really anything special either.
No. I think this time around, though, they've gone with the classic maneuver. It's really sort of become popularized quite recently, using the emergency parachute just to send a single player up to scout for information while the rest of your team drives forwards, keeps the mobility of having vehicles alive, but also gives you the information that you get from having that aerial view. It's very good adaptation that a lot of teams have started to adopt. Latte now, though, will be forced away from this position as FaZe commit the vast majority of their strength onto a push into the compound. They will have successfully saved their captain Jeems for the time being, although Feck's going to have to go down just in case that position needs reinforcing.
Pero also on the move. Probably a bit disappointed to only pick up the 3 points out of the last game. They were in some pretty substantial fights for quite a while, but none of them really amounted in any points-giving opportunities in the end. And that's a team that's obviously been around the block. Some big names on that team. So they'll be wanting better than 9th finish, that's for sure.
Yeah, definitely so. They had pretty strong position in game number 1, should the zone have been slightly more favorable to them, but it was not to be this time. They were nowhere really close to the phase 1 pop. A lot of teams weren't, but they will at least have a pretty uncontested rotation around the western side. Bleed Going to take a more direct approach, but still having lost Happy in the very early phases of this game makes it that little bit more difficult. And coming in on vehicles from the south, going through Picado, you're having to go uphill blind. VP is doing exactly that right now. Cerberus on the plateau. Na'Vi taking an alternative approach, going all the way to the very edge of the map, making the widest wrap they possibly could. But they really don't want to fall victim to a team that's trying to capitalize on that early loss.
Yeah. Well, doesn't look very likely that that will be the case, because they are going to have hundreds of meters of free space at the moment.
Thousands even.
Yeah. It'll be a while before they see anybody. Maybe even before they hear anybody at this point in time. Bit of a spread from Gen G, trying to occupy 3 or 4 compounds.
Yeah,
just 3.
A little bit of presence up towards the northern side of Crater Fields, overwatching as Tosi gets somewhere close to range, but between Valley Tai and FaZe Clan. Bit of presence up the side of the hilltop as well. E-Arena now setting off on a very similar rotation to what we're seeing from Na'Vi, but just on the far western side of the map, about 7 kilometers of space between the two teams. Pero, though, are going to start making their way in on the western side of Crater Fields, pushing forwards. Barpo, he hears those vehicles. He does not want to stick around to find out who it is.
Yep. Good thing, too. There's a few Pero members here. Starting to feel a little bit like the previous game, isn't it? You know, a couple of kills early, but then largely not a whole lot of fighting going on.
I think that's what we want in a final stage of a tournament like this. We don't want anyone running it down. We want everyone to come and perform at the best that they possibly can. And hopefully that's what we're going to see. A couple of teams holding pretty wide splits towards the center of the zone. TSM in a 2-2, Twisted in a 2-1-1, and guess who's on top of a mountain on the eastern side of Crater Fields? That's right, it's Batulins. Who else? New Happy, though, all the way to the southeast around Hacienda, still with 4 AM ahead of them to try and push in towards, and Bleed now making their way out of the Picado East Road. May potentially catch them in the back if the timing is a little off for New Happy.
Yeah, the trio of Bleed. Unfortunately, after having lost Happy earlier on.
Not very happy about that.
No. They might not be very happy if they keep running along this road, because they are going to run into New Happy, who are holding just south of Hassi.
Well, they lost their old Happy. They can get a new one.
They can get a new one.
Wow, that's convenient.
Might not be the same kind of Happy that they're really looking for, but I can see them on the map just veering off a little, so I think they'll be okay for the moment. E-Arena still making this big old rotation as well. And that's really all there is to see at the moment. Just rotations happening.
If we do get a hard western shift, E-Arena will have like 4 square kilometers to play with, entirely free. To work with. Pero, though, from getting up top, not just satisfied with forcing Barpo to push down. They're going to try and put even more pressure on towards Gen G. Only 10 seconds until the next phase will pop. But grenades being exchanged. It seems as though they're ready to commit into this fight, but should the zone shift, they might just have to back away. But it might be too little too late. They're already within angles. They're already getting shots in towards each other. Damage has been dealt to Barpo. And Brex over the top, trying to punish their over-aggression just before the zone shift.
Yeah, have a look at who else is lurking around. It's FaZe again, who might be incentivized to try and get in there and cause a bit of a ruckus. Oh, dearie me, that is awkward. Oh! Another one. Pero have just popped off in a big way. Ada, he does bounce back with the one. I thought it looked like for a moment both teams were just trying to exit, but not the case. And in the end, Gen G will be on the receiving end.
It's a strange timing on this aggressive push from Pero just before the zone shifts. It's going to cost them. Chewy, for all of his heroics at the start of this fight, has now gone down. Tosi unlikely to be revived. Twisted Minds still has Batulins up on top of the mountain, putting third-partying shots. That's contributing to some of those you're hearing hitting the walls, and even will secure the flush onto Tosi from miles away as well. He can see just about everything, and Gen.G will be forced to hop in their vehicle as a two-man and just try to make a move in towards the zone.
Yeah, it's not looking very fun for Gen.G at this
Not
point
at
in
all.
time. Just saw Cerberus popping up in the kill feed again for all the wrong reasons. The only team at the moment still sitting on 0 points. They say the bigger they are, the harder they fall. And Cerberus have gone from the best in the biz to last place, but it is only game 2.
Yeah, and to be fair, it was a loss on an emergency parachute, and it was only a knock. It's not been fully confirmed yet, but it did get them a very solid position. If this does go to the compound just to the southwest of water treatment right now on your screens, that bridge alongside it, having 4 men up in this compound, they've secured the revive onto Haisaki. They'll be more than happy with taking that, even if he got flushed. I think they would be more than happy to hold on to this position as a 3-man.
You can see TSM in the near vicinity as well have got a 2-2 split, so they're kind of hedging north and south a little bit. It's going to give them a couple more options in about a minute and a half once that zone pushes its way in. Halo was knocked, but has been revived. Good spread as well from Falcons. One thing you notice about Falcons is that they do love to split quite a bit and take a lot of territory, and sometimes sometimes that doesn't work out for them, but when it does, all the options in the world are really nice to have later on in the game.
Sometimes you just don't really get the opportunity to do so. I mean, the way that they got into San Martin, they kept a couple of vehicles alongside them, but position on the northern side doesn't give you that many chances to flex out without opening potential threat targets to the high ground to the south, where VP and E-Arena were still lurking. And sometimes it's just really, really rough. Like for Gen.G, they survived, got a top 2 in game number 1 by sitting in a shack. This time around, they don't even have that. They've got a vehicle that's going to last seconds more at most, and a smoke grenade. That is all they have to play, and it's looking extremely rough for Gen.G.
Yeah, I think the analogy for that is that they're up the creek without a paddle.
And now their car's running away from them as well.
Trying to hide behind, the corpse of the vehicle, and just not fun at all. Ada's gone back into the smoke, but it's going to start to fade. Zone shift time. This is where things get really interesting. It's been a slow game so far, apart from if you're Gen.G, and that's maybe not the shift that we were banking on. There's where the 2-2 split comes into play from TSM, as we've been talking about Purdy and Luke. It's going to be a position for the other couple of members to rotate into.
Walitai going for that same strategy with the emergency parachute, sending Unique as the IGL up ahead to do some scouting forwards. He spotted out that Legacy regrouped their split and went towards the gas station, and the map stream just lit up as he tried to make his descent, but job done. He scouted the free position. The rest of Walitai will claim that for themselves. Virtus.pro didn't really have that opportunity. They're still pushing forward. From the south, unstable terrain. Latte needs to get himself inside the hard cover though, because FaZe still in water treatment to the north, putting the pressure on, and they don't really have the angles to try and suppressing fire down on the team above.
They've managed to make it okay. Now it's a case of holding the position down. Other teams making their way in. Twisted Minds out in the blue. You can see that represented on the scoreboard as well, if you're wondering why are they highlighted in blue. Pero still yet to come in from the north, and Na'Vi, spoke about them a while ago. Have just about managed to make their way into the zone. Everybody else, more or less set up.
The rough one for Howl. They have to go south. They're going to try and wrap their way around, and the timing was almost terrible as Twisted Minds had very similar ideas. Perfectix lands a headshot as they retreat. They have to start wiggling their way along the road to dodge the M. K-12 bullets. They will successfully do so, make their way not even really to safety. They're still not in a position within the zone.
They trying to cut them off?
The arena is just ahead of them. Ketper is thinking about it. He went up to the side of the hill.
Might need to go back and help his teammates here, because I think there's bigger fish to fry than Twisted Minds at this point in time. E-Arena still at the top of the lobby at the moment and trying to hold Hal off. Jacob tossing his nade in there. Lyric's alongside him. Have Zizzy rotating in as well. Ruin has been spotted out by Batulan, so it's going to get a little bit difficult for Hal to push forward now, especially with Twisted Minds at their back. Ketpa stuck around and has been punished for it.
Well, he might have just taken down Example alongside him. He won't get the point for it, but the damage was done. Accidentally ran himself over as he tried to disappear, but not enough damage on the blue zone to deny the revive just yet. Grenade didn't quite roll far enough for the Mad to go down, but Perfectix angle is going to be a big one alongside the shack where we saw so much action previously in this exact spot. And Twisted Minds are going to be using this to try and take down the Mad the best they can. E-Arena committing to the push, but once again, Batulins is on a mountain, third partying. He's having the time of his life.
Ruin is certainly not cowering away inside of that smoke. Code Marco stuck inside the blue zone nades. He'll be knocked, and it is not going well for Hal at all. Down to just one member. Northern shift from water treatment. And FaZe will be really happy to see that. Had a bit of a poorer start to game one. But here is their opportunity to make amends for that and finish strong.
TSM holding that 2-2 split to the north of San Martin and not getting a position in the Phase 4 zone. That is unfortunate, buddies. It's so often that gets hard-fed, but not this time. E-Arena still committing to push forwards, as elsewhere, Jacob's teammate Tigger is just making a push in towards Hacienda. He catches Quizzy unawares and takes him out. Was not expecting this, seeing E-Arena in the kill feed, hearing the shots further south, getting caught off guard.
Yeah, E-Arena going to have to think about moving now as well. They don't want to get stuck dealing with this last member of Hal. Nixie able to get revenge onto Tigger. That is going to be an unresable knock for E-Arena, who are going to leave him for dead. In the meanwhile, Twisted Minds have been able to overtake them on the scoreboard. It's just a jostle for first and second at the moment between those two teams, and then a big old gap. Pero eliminated in 15th. Their woes will continue.
That's an interesting way for Pero to have gone out. Again, though, strange timing on their aggression. Just 10 seconds before Phase 2. They tried to push Gen G, and in the end, it's cost them completely. They've had to deny points to the blue zone at Phase 4, which is just absurd. TSM now making their push out from the western side. They've got hails of utility to toss over towards FaZe Clan, but none of it is landing. Corexi took a little bit of damage, but he's fallen back to the safety of the buildings. And with no one yet to third party, TSM have to try and make this push just work.
It's an awkward one, definitely. All the cards are in the hand of FaZe. Virtus Pro and Twisted Minds going to go head-to-head. Ibiza gets the nade out, but that might be to his detriment. Example was knocked straight away by Nixie, who's looking to double down in Perfectix. He is a dead man surely behind that wall. It was actually Mime that got the knock, but Nixie will be more than happy to take the kill away from him. Lou, feet spotted underneath the truck. Lucarix can't quite land the shots, but Seymour can.
Wow.
There's third parties all over the place right now, and even now Falcons hunting, Bleed hunting. They're both looking to pick up some crucial points to start off their day in the PGS 4 final stage.
Wow. Well, if he's not on top of a mountain, he's up close and personal with an M249. We've got to say, every single one of these players has seen this exact situation so many times. 5 teams scrapping in and around Hacienda, and it's very unlikely any of them are going to make it out. Corexi, in the meantime, gets 3 down from TSM. A bit of help from Jeems to clean them up, taking control of the northern side. Lukaruk still battling his way out, looking for Batulins, knowing the blue zone is doing damage.
He's going to have to slow things down. Pop the meds. Bleed also getting harassed by that blue zone. Sort of seems like a bit of a damned if you do, damned if you don't type position. On the map, you either have to take the fight, stay in the blue, or try to rotate off, in which case you're going to get shot in the back, you're going to get shot in the side, so I guess you stick around and try and do a little bit of damage before you inevitably do get forced to push. Maybe Falcons can conjure something. It depends on how many smokes they've still got here.
Right.
Fairus has been knocked by Hakatori with a vehicle, so that's less than ideal. Mine finish off. Bleed get at least that point. And they go up to 7th in the standings.
Yeah, Simoy is doing such a great job of just delaying this push from Falcons up over the top, trying to get his teammates in a position to contribute, but Snakers gets the drop on Trick from distance. No real cover for him to try and work with, and Orcarin is stuck behind those hay bales, nowhere for him to go. There is still the solo of E-Arena in Lyrics between Simoy and the rest of Falcons. They have no idea. They're fully committed onto the idea that Simoy is a free kill, but Lyrics behind the rock pops up. They were not ready whatsoever. Snakers will clean him up, but Simoy should surely be there to finish him off. No, he gets behind the tree. Snakers still has a chance.
Oh, Snowball's chance, you'd have to think. He's looking to try to med, and he's been finished off. That is Falcons out of the picture in 11th. It was a doomed position to begin with. Here, though, comes Cerberus. The charge into 4 AM, and they know they need to make amends for how they started the day. They were on 0 points longer than any other team, but Cerberus are not a team that's going to be denied for long.
That grenade through the roof could have been huge. Did some good damage, but not quite enough to secure any knocks. Now 4 AM know that the pressure is coming. Hiding behind whatever hard cover they can find, and with the south side seemingly clear, Bleed is starting to put some pressure towards this as well. Blue zone grenades to clear some space with Molotovs will force HSM outside, but the push can't be committed to just yet. Cerberus need to take this up close and personal with the ARs.
Emas close by indeed. We've seen the damage this guy can do, and he's gone again for another one onto God V. In the meanwhile, Xiaopian was found out by Sololzi, and that's the end of 4 AM. Quick, clean, and easy for Cerberus. Exactly what we've become used to.
You really got to ask the question, why did they bother throwing all that explosive utility? All those blue zone grenades, Molotov's grenades didn't get the job done. They just walk in with ARs and wipe the floor with them. They could have just done that straight away and saved them. But hey, I mean, I guess it's all about just numbers game at this point. Bleed was trying to find some third parties, but they could not get it done. Batulins did eventually go down in the blue zone, but not before he secures Twisted Minds in first place for now. 9 kills. They've had a very aggressive start to the final stage.
Rest in peace, Na'Vi. Who happy with a couple more points on the board. Zone shift is going to come through and does favor New Happy. Most definitely. Draw your attention to the scoreboard as well on the left of your screen there. You can see the teams that are still alive here in Game 2 were the ones that, quite frankly, didn't really perform in Game 1, so we are going to see a bit more of an equilibrium restored on that scoreboard. It's not going to be quite the same with a couple of teams running away with all of the points. Gonna even out a little bit more. FaZe are making their push into Walitai. And they're doing okay. Tycon's been knocked, which is going to relieve some of that pressure on FaZe. Grexy does need to be very careful peeking around that corner, though, with Kiss on the other side of it.
That's huge. Ooh. That's so smart from Megvalos. Off the pole! Bounces perfectly onto Gustav. The deployable cover does nothing. 101 damage. Wow.
That man's got an arm on him, that's for sure. And Cerberus will be the real benefactors of that with the kill onto Gustav going their way. But in saying that, it's definitely opened the door up for Walitai, who are actually wiping the floor with FaZe now.
Oh my, Orcarin has gone down to a mortar. Not sure exactly where that was, somewhere in the open field, but Sololzi had him dialed in. But Megvalos had him dialed in as well. Gustav completely destroyed, and now FaZe Clan will have to turn their attention to behind them as Cerberus are on the move. What? But what is this send? Corexy will take them both down. RBN steals one.
Hello?
They ran out of space, they ran out of time, and Megvalos is there to receive as Haisaki meets the same fate.
I don't know about that one from Cerberus, but I guess you reap what you sow, and what they've sown is Sololzi, center of the zone, dead as well. It's the end of Cerberus, who just disappear in the blink of an eye.
Oh, James finds two. He's lost all of his teammates. Corexy still possibly resable.
Nope.
But it was... Never mind. But it was down to just James in a 1v3, but two quick peeks around the side will get the opening knocks he's so desperately needed.
Res came through actually very quickly there. Latte just sat the res. Megvalos straight down, but Latte able to find the angle, and so Walitai do manage to hold FaZe off, who do get finished off in 4th place. Could still be 3 alive for VLTH after this one. 4 on 4 though between Legacy and New Happy. And Legacy are having to move. They know that their position is isn't quite as tenable as New Happy's. This is now where you start to get in that situation where New Happy can kind of flex their muscles. They were a bit quiet in game 1. We've seen what they can do in this event so far though, and they are definitely making a strong run in to finish things off well for game 2.
The Legacy coming in from the south side, open fields ahead of them. They know it's going to be tough for them. That's why they've came packed with 18 smoke grenades to try and just delay for as long as possible. But we're only just about to hit phase 7. There's still 7 more minutes until this game runs out of space to work with altogether. They're going to have to delay for such a long time. And New Happy just cop the biggest feed they could have possibly asked for on this shift.
Well, if you don't win this one, New Happy, then I don't know what to say. Because there is just no way in for VLTH or for Legacy. Look at all of this open ground that they have to cover. It's just, there is no way. That you can reliably go and be safe. I mean, there's hay bales here and there, but really, what does that do for you? The position that New Happy are able to hold on to is just so nice.
Yeah, and the problem for Walitai is they committed their vehicles to make it into this spot, and that means all the tires are going to be gone. There's very little left for them to work with in terms of getting out. One of those spots where, yeah, you just go here, and that's pretty much the end of your game. Once this zone has shifted away from them, there's very little chance. They do have a couple of vehicles. They may have just about kept the tires in good enough condition to try and make a move, but the smokes are dissipating quickly. RBN is still watching. They know that both of these other teams are going to be trained on this position if they want to try and make a move. It's going to have to take a big deal of fortune going in their way if they want to make it out alive.
Well, they're going to try and throw a couple of smokes here and there, but you've got to go at a certain point. Megvalos down already, and New Happy, they know exactly where VLTH are coming from. The smokes are telegraphing that much. They have managed to make the cross to the rock, but that's not even inside of the next zone. At this point, VLTH, they just want to play for second. They want to try to get some side angles in onto Legacy, but it's not going to happen. Legacy are already inside of the zone, and VLTH have still got a ways to move. I think it's VLTH looking pretty cooked right now.
Big time. They're really not having fun. They've also run out of utility entirely. They've used everything they have just for about 100 meters of room, and it's still not enough to get them into the zone. A folded shield might just buy them a couple extra seconds, but at best it's a deny to the blue zone, but Ming will deny them even that. Nothing more to be found for Wally Tai, and now a 4 versus 4 with New Happy to defend the compound against the field swarming with members of Legacy.
I wonder if there's maybe still a world here where Legacy can make something happen. All it really takes is a good couple of shots or two. To be fair, I do have to say it's a much more difficult position to play from for Legacy, but stop the guns from shooting back. New Happy can't really afford to drop a player or two in quick succession, because that's what would open the door up here for Legacy.
Not at all.
Issue is there's not really any damage even going back at all from Legacy at the moment, so no real pressure on New Happy at all. They continue to spread out throughout the zone to try to find angles in onto Legacy.
Just got this whole ridge to work with. The entire field is just so impossible to make any move forward. Legacy had 18 smoke grenades, and they've all been used already. Ming with a quick left click will take down RBN. One tap from the Dragunov, all it takes at this range, and Gizera might be next on the block. One tap from the Mini. At least force him off the angle, but it's not enough to get the knock that they so desperately require.
Yeah, stuck between a rock and a hard place here, Legacy. Doesn't really seem like there's a good option. Just got to fight as much as you can, but I think we can. And all see which way this is going. Matter of time before New Happy pops up on the screen as the victors of this round. It's like a death by 1,000 cuts, really, isn't it?
Unless, of course, somebody can do something miraculous, but it would have to be exactly that. Ooh, and that grenade almost denied the opportunity. Nan trying to line up as a second. Gizera tagged down low. That grenade won't reach. They're running out of time. The blue zone is making a move. If it's going to happen for Legacy, they need knocks right now. They can't even get into grenade range. They have to throw the frag grenades to give them some very short-term smoke, but Nan will finally sit down Gizera, and it looks like the inevitable is coming.
They're going to give the points up to the zone. Yeah, and that makes a lot of sense. New Happy will walk away as the winners of match number 2. And they, you know, they're like, well, that was just a standard day at the office for us, really, wasn't it, boys? To be fair, though, as Legacy, I don't think you're too mad about taking the second there, right?
Nope.
It was a rough position to play from. You recognize the circumstances. But end of the day, Legacy still getting some pretty big points on the board.
Not bad at all. I mean, they held out as long as they possibly could. They tried to find those knocks, but New Happy just had the numbers, they had the positioning, they had the utility, and they had all the cards. Nothing at all left over for Legacy but to give up the point. And it makes sense because they were right next to one another in the leaderboards. They don't want to give points to that direct competition. But first of all, New Happy climbing up potential contenders against Twisted Minds, who have got off to such a fantastic start.
Cerbers real happy as they come away with a chicken dinner, a heck of a shift, and able to just play defense. It's time for the highlights.
Man, this was a crazy set of circles. As usually whenever we get this area around water treatment, it's a bit more to the west, right, with God compound, stuff like that on the road. And with this shift over into this wide open area, it just made Circle 5 explosive. Teams were just like, okay, there's nothing else to do. It's just time to send it and get some kills.
Yeah, you brought that up when we were watching. You're like, man, it's only phase 6 and the thing is coming to an end. That was crazy.
Yeah, and also, I know that, okay, there's some back and forth that people can have about dying to blue and whatnot. I want to say that Legacy, pushing into this, there were several different points where they were having to essentially limp forward a couple of meters, limp forward a couple of meters. They spent roughly 2 circles just trying to find some vulnerability to pass into this. I love the heart and not just immediately being like, okay, there's no way to do this. They burned every bit of utility.
They did. And there's something to be said. I don't know. I'm sure there's a saying out there about something's the better part of it. I don't know what it is, but the idea that, you know, sometimes you have to take the W in the L. You know what I mean? And that's what they did. They climbed forward. They went ahead and they locked. They got as many smokes used as they could, and they got what they could out of it. Now, Cerberus did a little more in this game. We saw him go down in a rough way at the end. And the other one for me is Wally Tide. These guys, again, showing up in the top 5, have been performing really, really well.
Aiming for good consistency all around. We also had some decent kills coming out from E-Arena as well. It's Twisted Minds to start off this round. Didn't make it into the later stages of it, but at least giving themselves some more momentum moving into round number 3.
Hey, welcome back to the desk. My name's Tom. This is Match'em, and this is PGS4. It has been a wild start already. I mean, one of those, you know, let's go back to PGS3 for just a second.
Okay.
Sonics, Twisted Minds, Cerberus. Those were the dominant 3. When they asked me at the start of this, what's going to happen, I was like, those 3 teams will be right back into the mix. Twisted Minds looking good. Sonics isn't even here. Cerberus getting a bit of a slow start, to be completely honest. And on the other side, we've got teams like E-Arena who have just been playing so well. Wally Tai showing up again. New Happy, Ming Ming. Jeez Louise, this guy's on fire.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what has been the change up between day 1 of PGS4 moving into day 2 of the group stage now in the final stage. But Ming Ming is just really coming into his own more and more.
Absolutely. Legacy also putting up a good late game. They get 4 kills, a lot of damage, but that was one of those things, you know, obviously I think they'll be happy with it. They will be happy with this. I mean, there was not much available. You guys are right. They did the best they could with the little that they had. Now, these guys, they had a lot. That high ground, being able to just sort of watch everyone else fight it out. I mean, you could see Ming Ming over there with the Dragunov was like, I like, angry that he couldn't peek harder, I guess.
That moment, he just like, I think one of the Legacy members hopped into a vehicle and was just trying to like, see if maybe he could creep forward just a bit more and just kind of glances with the Dragunov and is instantly dropped. I was like, boy, that's Dragunov
like
right
an
there.
Like an old-timey king, just sort of like waving his hand.
Be gone. You're not allowed, plebeian.
Be gone, bug. All right, 3 kills goes the way of Ming Ming. Though I did like that, you know, you saw those overall numbers. Ming Ming gets the man of the match with those 3 kills and damage, but that really felt like they played that really well as a team. The spread, they were covering all of the angles, and there was no superstar in that match.
Yeah, I mean, that's a pretty open area, too, of the map, so it's pretty easy to control, as most of the fighting did end up happening in more to the west and to the southwest areas. So while it wasn't necessarily the highest kill count game in the world, that's just because all the fighting happened in Circle 5 where they couldn't see it.
And they had to hold off other teams. We saw that fight. We saw Longster make a nice little play there, and they worked hard to protect each other. 7 kills means they had a pretty good game, especially when you saw there weren't that many available there at the end game. 17 total points for them. Legacy gets 10, FaZe with 10, 6 kills, looking good. And Twisted Minds, despite no placement points, puts up 9 kills. I don't know where you guys were in group stages, but they have woken up.
I was a bit concerned looking at the group stage of Twisted Minds. I'm never really afraid for them, but we just didn't see a dominant performance coming up from them. It felt a little bit hesitant here and there. Not anymore. Now they're just back. I don't know if they were just saving. They were like, okay, you know, last time we won group stage, let's not curse ourselves. Let's just come in and then just win the final stage.
They walked into the stadium today. I thought they were kind of washed. Like they had their hoodies on. They looked exhausted. I mean, but they've been here for almost 27 days. that can be tough on some of the players. I was like, man, maybe fatigue has finally got these guys. That is not the case. They came in today to play, and that shows in the total leaderboard with 25 points. So New Happy, not far behind.
Right back behind them is going to be EA, as well as Legacy, who's put up 2 consistent games. I mean, Legacy, I would say, is kind of an underdog inside of this, but if they keep playing as they've been playing these first 2 games, they could cement themselves a very solid position.
I mean, I said a whole list of underdogs who are topping this thing. E-Arena, chief among them. When I interviewed, we talked earlier about how they said we studied everyone else. We know that our game is good. I love seeing that sort of confidence, and you're seeing it in these games. They're taking the fights. You saw, you like that aggression in the end game from them. Or you said you liked what they were doing previously, right?
I like what they're doing now. I felt that they were a bit too passive in the group stage.
Right, and I think they were doing some good fights in the mid, but now it's like the whole thing. Like, these guys are the total package.
And we're even seeing Bleed doing a good job, I think, sitting in 9th right now, really learning from the group stage and navigating this. I wouldn't say hyper efficiently yet, but for a brand new squad at this point, great.
Awesome. Well, guys, we are going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're done with Miramar. We're moving on to the fun map, so don't go anywhere. Just a few minutes. This is PGS 4.
Really never ends well when you see so many players in the same vehicle, and that is exactly why it is so clean, the shots that came through. Has to make something of it. There's no way Ferris was expecting him from behind. He needs to do more, and Flood doubling down, finishing both off as well.
We go a little bit close to them, but they backed away. Ooh. And now the push has come through. Zipian activates the off angle, and it's
trying to use the shotgun. Heaven finds one. It's now to a 1 versus 1. Heaven has no HP, no ammo. Had to roll out the VSS.
In that mini 14, so he's going to make good use of them. A lot of headshots coming through there, as well as now the grenades onto Twisted Minds are perfect. The artillery that's getting thrown in. Molotov's nades, everything you can possibly ask for, and Purdy, of course, will be the one to push his way forward and finish it off. Dead.
Unfortunately, he had to run back in on a single hit point, wasn't enough. Rex with a FAMAS will get one, we'll get 2. Don't. Falcons, please do not do it again. Rex, what is happening?
A brand new win streak challenge, a zippy new travel tool for Rondo, and a nostalgic trip back to an old classic. All this and more as we dive into the Update 29.2 patch report. Been a while since I said that. First up, we're taking a trip back to a fan favorite time. That's right, we're going home. Air and Go Classic will feature an earlier version of the map, with a few modern tweaks for convenience. We've reduced recoil, added the starting island and bench weapons back in, randomized vehicle locations, threw some clothes on the ground, and even turned back the clock on the UI. This isn't a one-to-one original, but we hope it'll capture the fun and feel of those early PUBG days. Air and Go Classic will be around for 2 weeks, from May 14th to 28th on PC, and May 23rd to June 6th on console. Check out the patch notes for full details on all the throwbacks. Next up, the Win Streak Showdown is a new way to challenge yourself against other pre-made teams. Battle for new objectives and track your score while trying to rack up back-to-back chicken dinners. It's a brand new way to push yourself to the limit while earning great rewards. If that wasn't enough, we've also got a brand new tool to help you navigate Rondo. The dynamic new zipline gun lets you deploy a cable to desired locations and zip across. This changes map navigation in a big way, and we know you're going to get creative, so we're looking forward to seeing what you do with it. There's also a brand new Survivor Pass, updates to Team Deathmatch, bug fixes, performance improvements, and more. So be sure to check out the patch notes for full details. Update 29.2 is here, so rack up that win streak, grab the new tool, and zipline back to the past. Because we're going home. We'll see you on the battlegrounds. Nostalgia.
허거? 시엔차의 로스맨? 그게 되게 맛있더라고요.
루로판이라는 덮밥 대만식 덮밥이 제일 맛있었습니다.
딘섬을 넘버원으로 꼽고 싶어요. 제일 맛있던 것 같아요. 특히 고기가 제일 맛있긴 했는데 그 입안에서 터질 때 육즙 나오거든요. 그게 제일 맛있었어요. 베이징가오야.
저는 양꼬치가 제일 맛있었어요.
Dışarıda arkadaşlarımla takılmayı, beraber olmayı seviyorum.
Winner. Thank you.
Don't need your money, just give me respect. Told you before that you know I'm a threat. I ain't letting up, I got my foot on their neck. Yeah, in other words, you know that we about to kill it. I ain't for the talking, I said it, you know I did it. I'm putting on the show, the world is about to feel it. I know they're getting scared when I tell them that. We outside. Yeah, we outside. Yeah, we out. Looking at the view from the top. Get into the bed, don't stop. Get into the bed, don't stop. Better catch up, cause we outside.
Twisted Minds atop the scoreboard at the moment, but not by a huge margin. New Happy right hot on their heels. Irina sticking around as well after that first game win, but we change up our scenario a little bit now that Miramar has been completed. And look, it is still early days, right? We're 2 games deep out of the 18 that we're going to play over the course of Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So at this point, you know, I mean, I don't think it's going to be worth necessarily getting into the nitty-gritty of things just yet. We just got to be along for the ride and see how the first day goes.
Yeah, I really do enjoy the fact of Mr. Toffee's coming over here saying, oh, you know, it's good to see things shaking up. Yeah, we're shaking things up here, Twisted Minds. At first place, that's different, isn't it? We don't see that very often. New Happy up there performing pretty well as well. That's new, but there is definitely some things that we would not have expected coming into today. Cerberus being down as low as 11th, Legacy up as far as 4th after the struggles that they've had. Just goes to show that anyone can do it when it comes to the final stage in an event like this.
Yeah, I mean, is there anyone else that you're kind of keeping an eye on at the moment going into Game 3 here? VP, I feel, were consistent during the group stage and have gone a little bit missing today.
I actually think Gen G have surprised me a little bit. The way that they've done it, though, doesn't feel like the most sustainable. Getting into those positions where they can survive, very, very difficult on a map like Tago. Compound heavy is often the play, and if you're forced to play a shack, you better hope there is one, because not every field has playable positions. But hopefully that's not going to be the case for a lot of our teams. We're going to get into game number 3 of the finals stage at PGS 4. Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed for all involved. It's going to be a southern plane path, east to west. Nothing too crazy of note. Perry versus FaZe, is that real? Is that true? Is that going to happen? Doesn't look like it. I'm not seeing any FaZe jumpers.
FaZe still in the plane. It looks as though they're taking this seriously. It might have been the case that they were going to see how Miramar went for them, and if they felt like they had a big enough lead, a big enough advantage on points, they might have committed, but not going to be the case. They're going to head over towards more familiar opposition in Na'Vi. They'll be taking the play over towards Harpo, the prison area. The Arena are going to get there first. Na'Vi do like to hold a bit of a split over the northern side of the bridge, but the full commitment from FaZe will force them away from that as an option. Wally Tai now touching down on the eastern coast, hoping they get a shift in their favor all the way on this side of the map. It's going to be difficult if they have to go all the way up to the North Island.
Oh, big long stretch for FaZe. Wow. It's going to take them a long time to get to the ground, and that is definitely not ideal when the zone is going to go about as hard south as it would like. Bleed dead center by School.
Chasing him down. That's interesting. It looks like a couple of VP boys are on their way over with guns in hand, but Ibi is going to just force them out of this position and turn back. Not overcommit. Hopefully Loisga doesn't have a gun as well, or he might be in trouble. Just a quick beep of the horn as they disappear. You said this zone's gone quite as far to the south as it would like. I've seen them go all the way.
Look, I'm sure there's more that it could do, but you know, this is still pretty
I'm
cracked.
saying the position of Tigger right now, if you've got the map stream open, all the way on the southwestern compound. There was a game in PEC that ended inside that compound, and funnily enough, it was VP that picked up the win on that game as well. So it's going to be a difficult one for a lot of teams to figure out a strategy to get into a circle like this. So make sure you're tuned into their team communications on PUBGesports.com to hear exactly how they're planning to make it work.
Yeah, Legacy do need to be a little bit careful floating around here, because TSM pretty close by, and they're having a bit of a look as well. TSM want to rotate in early. They've left Purdy to do a bit of extra looting, pick up a couple more pieces of utility perhaps here and there, but the other three are well on their way to trying to find a central zone. You'll recognize that as an opportunity. That doesn't come every day of the week. And TSM not too shy of getting a zone pull or two. So if they can set themselves up early, that might be the name of the game. Shots being thrown out by VHC. It's going to turn them away.
In a zone like this, you've really got two options. It's move as early as possible and try and claim one of the very few compounds that inhabit this area. Otherwise, you're playing extremely late, and at a certain point or another, it's just going to be all about kills. You're going to have to say placement points are not going to happen this time around. There's just simply nowhere to play. We've just got to kill as many as we can. TSM have really been a team that favor the former of the two. They like to hold their positions. They like to be able to take fights on their own terms. That's what they're opting to do so as they make a push in towards the zone itself. An emergency parachute set up as well for the Falcons as they're going to look for a position of their own. Petrichor Road coming in late around the east, just behind TSM. A little bit ahead is Purdy Curdy.
Did sort of mention Legacy and TSM potentially running into one another, and while that hasn't necessarily happened, they have set up residence next to one another, that's for sure. Imagine that that's not really going to amount to a whole lot until a little bit later on, but looks like a good spot to be in. See how that zone is going to shift, but just keep in mind Legacy and TSM. Not that Legacy needs any more help today, actually. They've been doing very well for themselves, so could be a third game in a row that they get some success from.
Fair chunk of points already secured in a zone like this, giving them an opportunity to find a spot towards the middle. Bleed Esports in a very similar position. Not that you would drop in school and expect to get a 9-zone hard feed, but if you get a phase 1 like this and you don't have to make any crazy rotations, as a team like Bleed that likes so often to play super late, taking a big chunk of blue zone damage in a lot of their games. But TSM not satisfied with the position they were holding. They want more. They want a stronger, more defensible position, and they've identified that Legacy split, and they are not going to hesitate. They push forwards. Gizera did not have a vehicle set up on his side of the road, and he gets caught as he tries to push back to safety. No chance for him to get out of there. TSM claiming first blood.
Yeah, I might have spoken too soon when I said it wasn't going to kick off between these two teams. I thought they were both just going to coexist in their compounds, but in the end, that's not the case, and yeah, TSM draws first blood for this game, which is a much-needed point. They find themselves from the top of the scoreboard in the group stages now to the bottom of the scoreboard here in the finals stage. Falcons have used that emergency parachute. Saw them setting that one up in Palace a little bit earlier on, and they've ended up really on the south coast.
All the way south, yeah. They spotted a vehicle, though, that they might be able to get their hands on. They may have seen Wally Tai. It's Megvalos, who was not too far away down the road, but he has to back away now as 4 AM is starting to make a push through Song Am. Vehicle almost flipped over a little bit for GodV, but managed to recover it. The rest of the squad of Wally Tai is coming in to reinforce this position while holding the edge as best they can. And now already 6.5 minutes into this game, it's just looking so congested all the way along the south. Those teams that are yet to really make a move, they're going to have to commit to playing the edge. There's not much else for them to use.
Yeah, I mean, that is kind of what happens when 30-40% of the zone is unplayable, given that it's water, so hopefully that does get rectified with the next pull. Or maybe for us as viewers, hopefully it doesn't. It just keeps going.
Yes, the sadistic viewer base. We love to see the players suffer because it just means it gets that much more exciting. Gen G copying a bit of a nice juicy feed onto a compound that they held onto earlier on just to the south side of Hosan, and it gets even better with a multi-drop. Barpo will be more than happy to claim an MK14, bring it back for the boys.
Yeah, it hasn't really been a super egregious zone pull here in PGS 4 so far, so I think we're about due for one. FaZe will definitely be hoping it's going to go north. It's been a long road for them.
But even then, like, their side of the zone, if they do get a hard feed, it means we're playing in a swamp, and that's still not ideal. There's still very little for them to play in that position. It just means that, you know, there's less of a chance that they're going to have to fight quite so early on. They will have to make their way through a bit of a wide split of Na'Vi, as Hakatori has been taken down quite low by a combination of Cerberus esports members just catching him out as he was trying to scout his position slightly further forward. But it's Faorist who might come under some pressure now with a four-man team of FaZe about 1 kilometer north of this position, pulling up alongside him. He's going to have to hop in the car and try and make it out of there, but FaZe hear the engine. They're going to start spraying him down.
Oh, one good shot, 2 good shots. They need just one more, and they find it. That is a nice bit of shooting from Jeems and from the rest of FaZe. They'll claim themselves another point.
That's how it is when Na'Vi doesn't find the glider for Faorist.
Yeah.
Scout and patrol getting caught out from a team coming in much later than them on the blue zone. They definitely knew that there was another team that went over the northern side of the bridge, but maybe not expecting them to get so aggressive so soon. But Hakatori, while you expect him to hit headshots, even from that range, Fex almost getting flushed out as well.
Yeah, so said was pushing forward slightly, but doesn't want to overcommit to this one. It would be a little bit silly to go chasing that frag. Nice knock, but that's all it's really going to amount to. One team that is worth mentioning as well, coming in only into the zone just now, is New Happy. They're the last team to arrive, spending quite a bit more time looting than almost everybody else.
Fortunately for them, there's no one there to try and gatekeep them. No one's playing the edge on the western side of Hosan, so they can just push their way forwards nice and easy. Jacob had a very solid start to the day in game number 1. Let's hear what he has to say.
Jacob from Arena here. You had a great start in the finals. What are your expectations and goals for the upcoming matches?
ก็วันนี้ได้เปิดตัวไก่ตัวแรกในการแข่งขันรอบไฟนอลมีเป้าหมายอะไรบ้างสำหรับการแข่งขันต่อไปในรอบไฟนอลไหมคะ
ก็ได้ไก่ตัวแรกก็ดีใจมากๆครับผมส่วนเป้าหมายก็หวังแชมป์เลยครับ
I'm very happy that I got the first winner chicken dinner in the final stage, and in the next match I hope we can get the champion.
Okay, so we look forward you guys can secure more chicken dinners today. Thank you.
Yeah, indeed. And that'll be something that I think most teams are probably going to echo. Have a look at that zone shift, though. We talked about going south again. Could be pretty fun, and we have sort of gone in that direction. Maybe not to the degree which we had been excited about, but
yeah,
still.
I mean, it's not a hard feed for Arena, but you really can't expect it in that position. I do like what we're seeing, though, as a bit of a... Oh, what is this collision in the middle of the road? Con might just go down as well as Jeems just smashes into the vehicles, runs him over. What is this chaos, hectic play we're seeing on the south coast of Tago?
I feel like I'm watching a horror movie, man. It's just jump scare after jump scare. See that from Tycon's POV. He turns around and there's a car in his face. I think I've had a dream like that once or twice, and I jumped out of the bed and jinked my neck.
It's like Death Race. You just can't get enough, just smashing into one another. Diffix was the first to go down. 2 remaining Na'Vi duo players will make it all the way to the south coast. FaZe just go flying past Cerberus. It's a costly endeavor for all teams involved, but it's not the most beautiful of positions for Hakatori to find. It's very scenic, but doesn't give him that many options. E-Arena spotted them going into that position as well, so they know There's some players there that eventually they can get the drop on.
He's going to try and get mobile, maybe try to get ahead of that. If he can get the head off her. Lyrics, that'll build himself a little bit more of a safe space.
Meanwhile, Song Am completely congested. 4 teams within the span of what is, all in all, a relatively small city. Howl trying to make an entrance to the northern side. Ahead of them is TSM, who have taken the position they stole away with the death of Gizera and committed to a very small 2-2 split back to their original position from where they originated. That push, but it's enough to hold Howl out of the zone for the time being.
Arena backing away from the coast as well. Will leave Na'Vi to their own devices. That will be great news for Na'Vi because they really just want to keep their heads down for as long as possible, and if they can do that and the zone keeps shifting in their direction, they might be able to steal away a couple of placement points here and there. It's not going to be a big game from them though, that's for sure.
Well, Song Am, we got a bit of a glimpse there. 3 teams in the city itself, Twisted Minds slightly off to the east. Now School as well, looking a little bit congested. Simoy holding the northern side alongside Happy. Genji confined to the shacks to the northwest. The Mad trying to find an angle, an avenue to get his team into the zone. Longsker not too far away, playing the opposite side of the ridge, just keeping his head down, trying to avoid being spotted for now, and maybe bait Howl into trying to commit into a breach on the compound so we could stab them in the back, but they're not going to opt to make that play. They're going to fall back and try and formulate a new plan.
Here comes Twisted Minds. Whoa!
Clean.
Well, they've managed to also make it into Song Am. Wasn't exactly the biggest of rotations from them, to be fair, and they've left perfect. Dixon example just on the outskirts.
And this might be the point where it just turns into an all-out TDM. Depending on this phase 3 shift, they've pushed themselves onto the outskirts of the city to give them options. They could back away and try and wrap around the coast on towards the position of Ibiza, or had this gone any further towards the west, it might have just been go for the urban brawl. This time, though, looks like the play will be to play a little bit safer, a little bit more conservatively. VP are going to start pushing forwards. There is a position that we saw a lot of chaos in this exact zone on the game in PEC Spring, and Howl was involved. They're heading there right now, and it's only the 2-man of VP there to try and defend against it, but they're not even going to make it there in one piece. Mime takes Code Marco out before they can even get to the spot.
Yeah, that's a death run really from Howl. It's not going to be fun either way. There's a crossfire that you have to get through, and they just kept going. They just keep going, but they're going to end up right in front of Na'Vi, who might even have enough strength to finish them off. So said, close by, behind the rock, hasn't shown his hand just yet. Now starting to fire a couple of shots off. The Mad down. Kepa trying to help him out. So said's a little bit more busy with Ruin. Somehow, actually, the majority of Howl do make that cross into the beach. For all the good that's going to do them later, I wonder where they end up, but they won't be the first team that's going to have to do something like that. TSM there, outside the zone as well. New Happy also trying to push down from the north.
It's a very temporary position for Howl to be able to maintain any presence for now, because Twisted Minds is making their wrap out of the southern side. They did lose Batulin somewhere in all the chaos, and there's another player knocked as well that they're not going to be able to retrieve. Thankfully, they haven't gone all the way down towards the coast, but it doesn't matter regardless. Sosed hits another headshot. Ruin goes down. Just so much pressure from the single man of Na'Vi as Hakatori watching over the western side to make sure that E-Arena isn't on their way over to make any sort of moves against them. Example, finds himself a shack where he can survive for just a little bit longer.
Yeah, you're just going to have to keep your heads down here as Twisted Minds. Ruin unable to do that. Cerberus are now making their move as well. Just a duo, Sololzi and Himas. Definitely has not been Cerberus's day.
This zone, limited options as well. I mean, if you're not already in with a compound, there's just very little to play. You might have a rock and a ridge, but that's about it. Ketpa's gone down as well. So said, just putting the pressure on, and now Nixie has flexed out of his position to secure the elimination. Hal down in 16th place. TSM now committing onto the push to dislodge Legacy once more.
I like this push from TSM though. They'd be aware that Legacy are down to 3. They're hedging their bets and saying we're going to have to try and, you know, take a fight to get into this zone. Let's do it against Legacy, a team that we know are wounded. Was the team that they wounded actually. Luke 12 getting those shots through earlier. And it is Luke that's kind of been left on the outskirts to provide a flanking angle and overwatch position. Chue also having a look in this fight, just from a different direction. The zone pool's actually gone up toward that fight between TSM and Legacy, and suddenly that becomes a much more tantalizing compound to take.
And Walitai holding the line in Songam as well as 4AM tried to make that escape. It looks as though, again, the compounds that do remain in the zone is going to be the focus of all the action for teams that are in a position to try and put any pressure towards it. For everyone else, it's going to be rough. LFP's trying to hold the angle, but Purdy gets the better of him. They're running low on utility to really dislodge them from this spot anymore, but RBN, his hands are tied. There's not really much he can do. He can try and get a grenade up onto the roof now, TSM.